You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. It's an honor to have you guys always with us. For 15 years, we've been bringing you the smartest people in the world, the billionaires, the CEOs, the Pulitzer Prize winners, the people who advise presidents, the people who write these amazing books that you see from all these amazing publishing houses. We're always honored they bring us on the show. And all these brilliant people come to you on the show, and then one small idiot with a mic, myself. That's not right. Wait, who put that in the teleprompter? It wasn't me. So there you go, guys. As always, help us build the show. Give us 5-star reviews over there on the iTunes, and give us follows. Refer your friends, neighbors, relatives, dogs, cats. Get everybody involved in the family, because you want to make them smarter. And tell them to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss1 on TikTok. And we have an amazing gentleman on the show. He's written his newest best-selling book. This is going to be hot to talk about, and a very insightful thing, I think, as well, because a lot of times these are stories that don't get told. He's the author of the newest book that comes out November 14th, 2023. Holy crap, we're almost to Thanksgiving. That's not the name of the book, folks. I'm just making that side note. Vincent Vargas joins us on the show. His newest book is called Borderline: Defending the Home Front. And I think this will be an important discussion to have, because, like I mentioned before, it's a story that doesn't get told a lot. We talk a lot about immigration, what's going on at the border, and different things like that. But there's some stories that are left out, and that's why we do these shows. Vincent Vargas was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. After 4 years of active duty in the United States Army, serving 3 combat deployments with the 2nd Battalion of the elite 75th Ranger Regiment, he joined the U.S. Army Reserves, where he continues to serve as a drill sergeant. In 2009, he became a federal agent with the Department of Homeland Security and served as a medic with the Special Operations Group. He is a successful entrepreneur, actor, writer, producer, currently stars in the hit FX show Mayans MC, and he's also a motivational speaker who focuses on leadership, military transitioning, and motivating youth. He's happily married with 7 children, count them all, and his bio says he resides in Salt Lake City, but I believe he just recently moved. Welcome to the show, Vincent. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
There you go. And it was Dallas, Texas, right?
Yeah. We moved to Dallas, Texas just recently. It's a little outdated, the bio, but we have 8 kids now, and we're done.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah.
Geez, I just read it. I just read 7. You just picked up another 8 in the last 5 seconds. Oh, you are from Utah. No, I'm just kidding. So there you go. Welcome to the show, Vincent. Congratulations on the new book. Give us the .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
It's really on social media, but you can do it at VincentRoccoVargas.com or VincentVargas.com. You'll be able to find me. But social media, same thing. Vincent Rocco Vargas. I'm pretty much on every platform with that.
There you go. So what motivated you want to write this book?
It was having frustrating times watching the news and watching kind of the Border Patrol as an agency get demonized and politicized. I was a Border Patrol agent for just close to 7 years, and I walked away from that career really proud of what I did there and proud of what the agency does. And so just watching it firsthand, seeing the news kind of make them look like they are the scapegoat for everything immigration, I felt like I needed to write something that would hopefully better explain the career field itself and maybe in a digestible way so the average person could understand the career of Border Patrol and what they actually entails of the career field, but as well as what they don't do. So there's so much confusion on the career field that I wanted to kind of help clarify that.
There you go. And was I correct in saying this is a story that doesn't get told much of the Border Patrol? You guys kind of get stuck in, being kind of the everyone getting all the blame from both sides of the parties and stuff.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. You'll hear the news call it border control, where there's nothing ever named border control. That's the lack of knowledge of the career field. You'll see things like detention and believe that that's border patrol, but that's usually ICE, right? Because what Border Patrol does as an organization, right? They apprehend it and then they process and then they hand off to ICE. And so there's just a lot of confusion on the whole immigration process and all the agencies involved. And so my goal was to, one, this book will better explain the career field, will also better explain immigration, kind of how it is in our country, how it's dictated essentially. But as well as this book will kind of be an inside look onto the career and what they do day in and day out, as well as the special operations units in the organization.
There you go. And is it a bit of a memoir as well?
Yeah, it is. I thought the best way to tell that story is to tell my own story, how I got into the Border Patrol. And as I kind of gone through every chapter of the Border Patrol career field, from being a regular agent, going through the whole, journeyman process, as well as trying out for selection for the special operations units and becoming a medic for a BORTAC team. And so I wanted to just tell my story as a BORSTAR agent. It's the BORSTAR hat right here, but to be, that most people don't know how many rescues happen on the border, how the humanitarian mission that happens daily on the border, and as well as how much drug trafficking is stopped on the border as well.
Yeah, we have a real big problem with fentanyl coming across the border as well. I think sometimes that's used to mask that people just don't want immigrants here and some sort of racial bias. I know that one of the biggest problems we have, someone said it very succinctly on Bill Maher the other night. They said basically what we have is we have a Congress that doesn't want to do anything or can't do anything because it's so gridlocked. And, they'll be like, hey, let's blame immigration or the Border Patrol or, what's going on at the border. And you're like, hey, aren't you guys supposed to regulate that? Like if you don't like what's going on down there, you're the idiots who's supposed to make the laws, do something.
Right. And it's funny. So people blame the Border Patrol for that, but it's like, wait, Border Patrol doesn't make the policies. Just like a sheriff doesn't create the speed limit. You know what I mean? It's you just follow policy, and yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, you guys are the sheriffs of the border, and you guys, every police officer in this nation follows the laws that were made by the lawmakers. And if you want different laws, then go make them. But the interesting point they made on Bill Maher was the gal said, with the advent of so many presidents that now make executive orders, it's kind of become this thing where people in Congress don't want to do anything. And the fighting goes on both sides, but they don't want to do anything. And they know that if they don't do anything, then a president will just make an executive order and they can blame the president for everything if it doesn't work out. They'll be like, oh yeah, he made meanwhile, you're like, you guys are supposed to make the laws. So I think this is important to point out, but also telling your story. So tell us a little bit about your origin story. I know I alluded to some of it in the bio, but give us from your words, some of your journey through life. What grew you up? How were you raised? What shaped you and made you want to join our military?
Yeah, my mother's a first generation American, and her mother came over in a very special way. You'll have to read it through the book. It's pretty interesting. But my father's Puerto Rican, and so I'm half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, and I grew up in the Los Angeles area in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up playing baseball. Both parents were hard workers. One's a believer, one's a dreamer, and they did their best to live that American dream. My father was a LA City firefighter. My mother was a secretary for the LA Unified School District. My father was a Marine. He got in trouble with the law when he was young, and he became a Marine. And I was raised by this Marine who wake up at 7 o'clock and half the day is gone. You know what I mean? Just tough. But I never thought about joining the military until I lost a full ride scholarship for baseball.
Oh, wow.
And so I decided at that point I watched the war on TV. I seen it happening, and a part of me didn't want to miss out on such an iconic time of our lives. And I also needed to pay the bills. I had a daughter on the way, and I wanted to find a way to support her. And so, being an athletic person, I decided I wanted to join the Special Operations Unit, Army Ranger, become an Army Ranger, and I did that. And after my 4 years of active duty, I decided to just go into the reserve side and kind of pursue a life outside of the military. I became a prison guard for 2 years, and right away, within 1 month, I knew I didn't like that.
So let me ask you this: why didn't you went into the Army, right?
Yeah, I did.
So is there a reason you didn't choose the Marines? Was it any sort of issues there with Dad?
No, I asked Pops. I said, hey, I want to join the Marines. He goes, don't join the Marines. I think he was trying to protect me, right? I think he was guarding me, But, the Army had a big signing bonus. And so that was the most intriguing anything for me.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, I mean, it's so interesting, the different branches and what they do and everything, and then the competition they sling at each other, which is better and stuff. So it's a nice healthy or unhealthy. I don't know which it is. I guess it depends on what bar you're in on a Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember my brother. He went to the Marines for 4 years, or he did his time. It might have been 2 or 3, but he came back and he told me about how the bars near the bases have steel cues, pool cues, instead of wood. And I was like, why? And he goes, that way they can't be broken over people's head and they have to be replaced all the time.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of drinking and fighting in the military.
There you go. Well, you got to get prepared for war somehow. So you served the time and you're still in the Army now.
I recently was medically retired from the military and walked away. Okay. So yeah, the only thing I currently am pursuing is the acting and writing space.
There you go. And how did you find your way into acting and stuff?
The same thing everyone else does. You head to LA and you do your auditions and, have my headshot. I produced a film already by then. And so I had a little bit of a resume and walked into the right place at the right time and looked like, someone who would be on the show, Mayans MC. And so landed a role and began to be on that show for the entirety of the show. It just recently ended, but I ended there as a season regular and a writer of the show.
There you go. Well, what is it like to go from, being in the military to being on TV?
Similar and different, right? I think it's very similar in the fact that there's a hierarchy of, rank structure. And so, know your job, do your job, and hurry up and wait is very common in both places, military and Hollywood. So I feel like I fit in really well there. So it worked out.
That's true. It is the hurry up and wait thing, huh?
Yeah.
Preparedness is everything. But do you see yourself doing more in Hollywood here coming up?
Yeah, I would like to. The writing strike and the acting strike kind of slowed the momentum. It was kind of a good timing for us to get this book out and when there was nothing else happening. There's a few things hopefully that are coming down the pipe, but I want to hopefully, this book hopefully tell the story of the Border Patrol, but hopefully make a screenplay of it as well.
There you go. That would be good, because these stories need to be told. I mean, they're human beings down there fighting the good fight, and you're dealing with stuff. Tease us out some of the stories of the book that were some of your favorite things that you think are important. We can encourage people to pick up the book.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in the immigration process side of things is you have two sides of parties arguing, right? And usually people have two different ideologies and they're arguing back and forth, but I think both of them have a valid argument, right? When you look at immigration, there is two sides of it. We want to look at our immigration policies, but we also want to understand the Homeland Security side of things. And so we have to somehow please both of those arguments, and both of those arguments are usually coming from one side or the other, but they both can exist. And there is a fine line that we can find that is equally humanitarian as well as providing security for our nation that we desire. It just depends on how far we want to dial that. Too much security causes an issue, and too open of borders causes another issue. And so the answer is somewhere in the middle of that, and that's getting both sides of the party to have a conversation about it. So I delve deeper into that argument and try and explain that a little bit better in a digestible way that most can understand. I use the metaphors like we all have doors in our houses, and with that door in our house, we expect people to knock before they enter, and as well as we could also determine how long they stay. If they overstay their welcome, we can actually kick them out. And so that is a metaphor that is also used in the immigration side of things, is that we do have a front door policy in our country, and we want people to use that front door. And we also know there's these outliers with claiming political asylum and things like that, and that's what our country is good for, is that we actually have the humanitarian side of us trying to help those countries as well. But where's the balance in that? Where's the balance that we're not dealing with what we have today, this influx, this overwhelming influx that depletes resources, and then that causes more issues on our border where our own agents are not able to work the line as they normally would. And so then you start fearing the security aspect.
There you go. Do we need to, in your mind, do we need to upscale the amount of agents we have to try and cover it? I know that we're seeing a record number of immigrants coming.
Yeah.
Is that one problem, the overwhelming per capita thing?
Yeah, I like to say, this whole immigration process, there's no 1 + 1 = 2 answer. It's a recipe for a cake, and anything too much can destroy it all or can make it better, right? And
there you go.
So if you see it that way, it's multiple layers of issues that we can address that could probably help this situation. Currently, what the administration has in order is not as effective, right? When you incentivize coming over to America illegally, well, now you have this massive influx, but we have nothing in place to manage this, right? There's no housing for this. There's nothing in place that can manage this besides what's happening now is the notice to appear, the NTAs, which is for the security aspect of it, of the argument, is dangerous, right? Just to catch and release, if you will. And so there's a lot of things. The border, they have close to 20,000 agents out there working, and that's 3 different shifts working at a time. And so in this, you have some around maybe 3,000 at a border at all times, trying to protect our borders. When you have a massive influx one direction, what slips through the cracks everywhere else? That could be drugs, fentanyl, if you will, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there has to be something that is rectifying the issue of the massive influx. I would say, you can harsher punishment. Yes, you can. But then there's an argument on that side as well. So there's a long list of almost a 7-layer cake of decisions that have to be made, and not just scrape off the top what most political, presidents or cabinets do, as they turn over a new president. It's like, let's change this, but there's still the 7 layers underneath that hasn't been fixed. The illegal immigrants who have been working here so far, other countries in their issues, right? Do we help? Do we educate? And as well as we can talk about, the problems we have with trafficking organizations that are making money. And so it's so many different areas. Currently, I think the fact that we have incentivized coming over illegally is why we have the massive influx.
How do we do that? And are we doing that right now? How are we doing that?
The incentivization is there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that are giving money and giving migrants a lot more things than the average person would get as an American, right? And so right now in certain areas of the country, they're coming over and getting processed and then released to a notice to appear that could be 10 years from now, and then given a cell phone and some money from some of these NGOs.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Cell phones, a plane ticket, and sometimes $1,500. And so that's an interesting one to me, because I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I know in our own country right now, we have people that are struggling with jobs, with other things. And so that's that one, if that doesn't raise a question, what does, right? That's interesting. But as well as what we've had before, before there was an Operation Streamline, where if you come across illegally, you actually went to jail, right? If they proved you were coming across without any proof of seeking asylum, then you would go prison time. You would have some jail time, and that jail time would increase every time you've come over illegally. Well, that is proven to have slowed down the path of people wanting to come across, right?
Yeah, deterrent.
Right, it's a deterrent. And so that has been something that has not happened. When the crazy part about it, which is I don't understand how good they are communicating, but it's so good about communication. As soon as go to Eagle Pass, Texas. Right now, they're letting you in 3 days, right?
Wow.
Somehow the whole South American countries and all the exotics who come across the border are getting pushed through in that same exact area. And then when you implement a new law, like back when I was in, like I said, there was Operation Streamline, where anyone who came across illegally would do 30 days in jail at first. And then the second time would be a year, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the traffic went down to like you would maybe catch 30 people in a month. And so somehow, some way, they're communicating very openly with where you can access in America and the fastest route to getting opportunities. And that's what's happening.
They're figuring out our weak spots, basically, or easy access parts. Now, I know the Trump administration built a lot of private prisons for, I don't know if it was for ICE or for you guys, and I don't know what they were used for. I don't know if they were used for holding and processing. I know the courts, the immigration courts are a big problem, and I think they're understaffed because they're so far behind.
Absolutely understaffed. Yeah, I mean, it's taking 6 months, 8 months to a year to see some of these people claiming asylum, right? So it goes into a further investigation. I'll explain this. So when you come across the border illegally and that Border Patrol apprehends you, they put you through a process in which rolls your fingerprints, they get your information, they find out exactly where you're coming from. So in the event that we deport them, we'll send them back to their country. But currently, right now, what's happening is if they have no prior history of any kind of breaking the law or whatnot, then they're going to be access to allowed to be come through because they're all claiming asylum, right? They're all claiming political asylum. Why? Because they all know if they do, they have a better chance of staying in our country. So once they've been processed, then it's handoff to the ICE, and ICE will determine what they do from that point. Border Patrol only does their apprehension, process, and handoff. That's what Border Patrol.
Okay.
And so in Border Patrol stations, you don't normally have a holding area that can hold more than 20, 30 people. And so these massive influx were overwhelming. Border Patrol stations go like, we have nowhere to put them. So then, boom, they started creating those, what people called cages, was actually just holding facilities. I don't know how else we would have done it or how they could have managed it better, but it was just a massive influx that no one was prepared for. And so now what you're seeing the Border Patrol has is processing centers. And some of those processing centers can house close to 1,500 at a time. But within a 3-day period, they're processing those 1,500 out and potentially another 1,500 come in. And those get handed off to ICE as well. They get bussed by ICE, and ICE will determine how they get released into wherever it is. And so right now, you guys, there's some people saying, they're getting bussed into sanctuary states, essentially what's happening, why Chicago is currently like frustrated with that as well.
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, New York, correct.
Yeah, New York just really was screaming about it recently. They feel like they're kind of at the point, which is, the worst place to send people is New York because it's so damn expensive to live there. Send people to, even Utah's cheaper to live in New York or just anywhere. Send them to Montana. They need people in Montana. Wyoming. There's plenty of room in Wyoming for everybody. I've been to Wyoming.
It's wild that I'm not sure what the plan is for any of that. There's just such a massive influx. Like, where do you put everyone?
Send them to North Dakota. There's nobody there. It's like 5 people in North Dakota and Paul Bunyan statue, I think, or something. But I love how you're helping people understand this concept, because these politicians that don't do their job and don't pass laws and just want to sling fest stuff to raise money on creating social media, whatever. There's a lot of different factors that need to be addressed. Let me ask you this: one of my perceptions of one of the problems is this immigration issues, that the theory that possibly we created this with all the mucking about from the 60s on that we did in South America, trying to play our little imperialistic. They were supporting capitalism. We saw what we did in Chile with the Pinochet there, and always trying to put our thumb on the scale of different things and mucking up. We've done a lot of stupid shit in South America. And really fucked up some stuff. Between massacres, and I'm thinking of a few different things that have gone on down there. But we've kind of created this, haven't we? Over
yeah, I
decades.
think you're right. I think you're right, and that's something that I think we're starting to reap that now. The Venezuelans that are coming to America currently right now, the massive influx. I don't know much about what's happening with that. I know they're going through their struggles, right? But one of my friends who is an actor mentioned, he goes, "Yeah, but this all happened because America did this, this, and this." And I was like, "Oh, snap! That's some interesting information," but it didn't strike me as a shock, right? Because I understand, we have dabbled our fingers in areas that created this ripple effect of issues. But I think that's part of one of our answers, is that we have to find these countries that are struggling and why their people are wanting to leave their country. And part of our job should be to help them find a peaceful and a better situation for their people to want to stay. I think our job as America, we don't want them to come here in this massive influx of people. We want them to use the regular system, but they're coming here claim political asylum. Well, and how do we fix their country so they don't want to leave? And how do we work together in a way where we can all help each other in this aspect? I think we're not educating enough people on it. That goes with also the organizations that are doing human trafficking. I don't think we're educating enough people down there in South America that they don't have to use that process. There's not a legal process, but manipulation is strong, and people, it's a huge business down there.
Yeah, you look at what we did even as far back as the 80s with El Salvador, our mucking about with the Reagan administration, and some of the massacres that took place, and we've really, if you study what's gone on since the 60s, we've done so much mucking up down there in South America. We've created our own problems. Now I know that evidently the people you mentioned that are doing this human trafficking, that are running the what do they call them? The wolves or the
coyotes.
The coyotes and some of the people that are encouraging people and getting paid. Evidently, it's $1 billion industry to move people to our border across South America.
It's probably more than that. I would say
Wow.
it's more in the trillions, because right now I didn't even talk about this in the book because it's a whole book on itself, but human trafficking is turning into now, sometimes organ harvesting is what they're finding out with intel.
Holy crap. So we got Chinese stuff going on.
Yeah. So it's getting crazy.
And they don't care. They get paid up front, so they don't care if some mother dies, crossing wherever, or he was pregnant. They don't, they don't care if you make it. They already got paid. But I mean, it seems like until you shut down this $1 billion industry, that gets paid to traffic people or do something. Is there a way to hold countries more accountable? I don't know if it was the Trump administration or the Biden administration, but at one point they were trying to get Mexico to quit and other countries to quit letting people pass through. And is there any way to hold countries accountable and say, hey man, knock it off or else?
Yeah, I have no idea if we'll ever be able to have any kind of power influence on other countries. That's kind of tough. There's a lot of trade that happens between the U.S. and Mexico, and we actually have a pretty good relationship. It's not necessarily, it's the organizations that are doing the manipulation behind the end, it's just cartels who power it, right? That the money is so vast over there that corruption is everywhere.
Yeah. And then, there was the recent kind of rhetoric that's been going on. Well, we need to start a war with Mexico. We've been doing more in Mexico as we're trying to move away from China because of the issues with Taiwan and our chip manufacturing, different things. And it's kind of too bad. I really think we should just annex China we should annex China. There we go. Annex Mexico. It's a little hard to do. I don't think they're in for it. We should really annex Mexico and just, I don't know, make them a thing. But we can't do it by force. They'd have to agree to it. But, we're such a trading partner with them, as you say. You can't go to war with your biggest trading partner. Yeah,
I know. I think that argument is so crazy to me. I think,
isn't it?
There's definitely some organizations down there that are corrupt and that are causing a lot of issues. And I guess you can focus on that, but to say to go to war with Mexico is just that's a short-sighted comment.
There you go. Do you think that the first step in the right direction is to somehow get Congress to pass better laws and to finance more money to this issue and try and actually do something?
Yeah, I think, exactly. I think if the first line of defense you have is Border Patrol, let's focus on how do we give them more equipped and more personnel, and as well as better, I guess, deterrence opportunities, right? So the argument with the wall was crazy to me because people boots on ground, guys like me who actually do the job, there's areas of the border that are impossible to work, to manage. Yeah. It's so deep. Sometimes it takes 2.5 hours just to get to your point where you're supposed to even check, right? And so if you have things like a wall, all that is a deterrence. It allows you, one, to have more time, but two, it funnels people towards areas that you can actually manage better. And that's all it was. And so the idea of people getting mad about the wall. Well, guys like me, boots on ground, we don't see it in this political argument. We see it as a value to doing our job better, because there's areas that are so rural, so desolate. It's man, I need someone to cover that because I can't get there within enough time. And by the time I get there, if something does occur, say 20 people just coming illegally, by the time I get there, they're already scattered and possibly to a road of some sort and already picked up and gone. And so the wall was just one way of being able to slow down the movement, and that helps a lot, and there's a lot more things like that.
I've seen people scale the unscalable wall with ladders. Oh, yeah. It's quite interesting to see.
They scale it, they cut through it, they go under it. There's everything, but that's at such a small percent that it's still more valuable to have that than not to have it.
Do you think we need more walls, or do you think maybe we just need more people in the Border Patrol?
I think both.
Jamped up.
I think both. There is areas that are impossible to cover. You have to have something other than just open there's open territory from Mexico all the way to the United States. There's still tons of land, thousands and thousands of miles of land is still just open. They can just walk across, no issues whatsoever. And so I think there is still areas that desperately need the wall. I think we definitely need more personnel, boots on ground. It's hard. It's hard when you demonize the career field. It's the hardest recruiting you could ever get, to tell everyone everyone who's watching that the Border Patrol agents are the reason, or they're beating them, or this or that. What most don't get is that the Border Patrol's position with immigration is actually very passive. If you think of a cop pulling someone over and he pulled them over for a reason, usually they're ready, hands on their pistol, and they're ready to escalate that. Us as Border Patrol agents, we have the pistol there, but the first thing we ask is, we tell them to stop. Most times they stop, and if they stop, then it's like, hey, let's go. They just get into the truck willingly. They got captured. Very few put up a fight.
Wow.
We just take a more of a, I would say, a passive posture in that. I think our presence is intimidating enough for them. They've heard the stories that Border Patrol does this and that, but the truth is, if you look at the use of force numbers, the Border Patrol agents get assaulted by far way more than the average law enforcement officer, based on how per capita of how many engagements we have. Wow. Compared to the turnaround is how many times have a Border Patrol ever pulled out his pistol annually. It's the lowest in almost any law enforcement you can find, and the numbers are in the book.
Wow, and that's probably true, because I mean, I imagine I shouldn't say it probably is probably true. Because these people technically want to be found half the time, because you guys have water and food, and they may have been crossing a stretch of desert. They don't want to cause problems, because if they fight you or cause some sort of issue, it's probably guaranteed they're going to come down with a crime and come back. Are Americans, I believe when you get the government that you deserve. And so when it comes to, if you don't like your politicians, go find a fucking mirror and look at your fucking mirror and who you're voting for. And so I blame the American people for everything, including myself. So if you want better politicians, vote for better politicians, or demand that those politicians do their jobs, not just 4 hours a day or something. They show up once a week. And so do we need to be more compassionate? Do we need to have more empathy for these people, because they are human beings? And
I think the Border Patrol does what the American people, they see it as a threat. And I get both sides of that argument as well. Like I said, there's two sides of that argument. Everyone that comes across and not thoroughly vetted, there's a potential risk factor that could be potentially infiltrating, right? People say the invasion. That's always a threat. But at the same time, they are human and they're looking for a better life. My hope is that they have invested interest in the United States and want to help make this place an even better country. If they have invested interest in this place, yes, I'm interested in having you. I'm interested in you providing value to our country. Absolutely. But so then your kids have a better opportunity as well. Absolutely. That's what immigration was back when that's what my grandmother came here to America and made the best opportunity she could. And she created a lineage of us who wanted to serve our country and protect and so on and so forth. And so here I am protecting our country, going overseas, and now doing it in here in country. That's what my bloodline wanted to do, to continue to invest into this country. And I hope that the thousands and thousands that are coming across have the same intention, but I am not ignorant to say that is the facts, right? So there is people coming here, they want that opportunity of what America presents. And then there's people here that just want to kind of use the system for what it is.
There you go. And then politicians who just want to use it, not really do anything, it seems, but just either be abusive and use it as a political curmudgeon or weapon. And again, I get real tired of some of the different politicians that are out there. And it's like, you guys are the ones who are supposed to pass the laws. Like, why are you complaining about this stuff? But one thing someone was bringing up to me recently was the small donor issue. And I didn't realize what was going on with the small donor issue. But one thing about shifting from large money that has been influxed to the things, which has its own issue to politicians, is a small donor issue flooding to politicians is this sort of nature where people on social media that are politicians can kind of hit these hot points that they want to hit. And they can be like, oh, see, here's what's going on over here and blah, blah, blah. Send me some money. And they fundraise off it. Yeah. And they don't really fix anything, because they can fundraise off it why fix it when you can raise money off it and, of course, ensure that you're going to be reelected to fix those problems that you always promise to fix and you never fix?
Yeah.
And it really made me have an aha moment. I'm like, yeah, no wonder these guys never fix stuff and never do the laws to update this stuff. But you're right. I think the Border Patrol and immigration and ICE and everybody kind of gets caught as the person who gets the stick on this and gets blamed for everything. And sadly, the people pointing the fingers half the time are these politicians that could easily fix it, and they just pass some laws and say this is the thing. So I'm glad this discussion is out there. I'm glad the education is out there, and you're educating people on what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Or what can be done, assuming we can get people to do it. But the most important thing is for Americans to care and elect people or demand better from your politicians. I'm reading what is it, I always call them the Madison papers, but I'm reading the Federalist papers right now. And the intent was that we were supposed to send our smartest and most brightest people from all walks of life and work to spend 4 years or 2 years 6 years in the Congress and then come home. It wasn't supposed to be, the geriatric retirement community that is right now, and people have been there for 50 years, and they certainly aren't our smartest and brightest in many cases. So, we need to do better as people in what we do. Final thoughts as we go out on your book, Vince, on Borderline.
Yeah, no, I hope that people, take this opportunity to pick up this book and read it, because the most important thing you can do is be informed and actually educated on the topic itself. There's too many people jumping to conclusions on titles of blogs or these, these agendas left and right. Let's just get educated on the topic. Let's understand what Border Patrol career field is about. And when you understand that, I think that's a good starting point to really continue to learn more about immigration.
Education is the best way to fix everything. Understanding the problem instead of just being led by the nose hairs around by politicians or people who are beating drums, going, "Oh, this is going on," and you're like, "Wait, are you supposed to be the guy who fixes this?" And there you go. I think that's more what people need to realize, because I've kind of come to that. I'm like, "Wait, isn't this your job? Like, I don't pay you to complain about this stuff. I pay you to fix it." So there you go. Thank you very much, Vincent, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Give us your .coms, where you want people to find you on the interwebs, please, sir.
You guys can, like I said, VincentVargas.com, or you can find me on any kind of social media. Usually it's Vincent Rocco Vargas. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. If you have any questions, hit me up directly. I answer everything.
There you go. Order up the book, folks, wherever fine books are sold. Remember, it's Christmas coming up, so buy a whole bunch and give away. Borderline, Defending the Home Front, comes out November 14th, 2023. You can pre-order it now wherever fine books are sold. Get educated, people. The more you know, that's why we do the show. I mean, half the time I just love being so educated myself from all the great authors we have on the show. But the more you know, share the knowledge and demand more from your politicians. That's my advice. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1 on the Tickety Talkety. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.